Be ready. Start. Men are qualified for civil liberty in exact proportion to their disposition to put moral chains upon their own appetites, in proportion as their love to justice is above their rapacity, in proportion as their soundness and sobriety of understanding is above their vanity and presumption, in proportion as they are more disposed to listen to the counsel of the wise and good in preference to the flattery of knaves. Society cannot exist unless a controlling power upon will and appetite be placed somewhere, and the less of it there is within, the more there must be without. It is ordained in the eternal constitution of things that men of intemperate minds cannot be free. Their passions forge their fetters. In an ordered society of mankind, there is no such thing as unrestricted liberty, either of nations or of individuals. Liberty itself is the product restraints. It is inherently a composite of restraints. It dies when restraints are withdrawn. Freedom, I say, is not an absence of restraints, it is a composite of restraints. There is no liberty without order. I say there is no order without systematized restraint. Restraints are the substance without which liberty does not exist. They are the essence of liberty. The great problem of the democratic process is not to strip men of restraints merely because they are restraints. The great problem is to design a system of restraints which will nurture the maximum development of man's capabilities, not in a massive globe of faceless animations, but as a perfect realization of each separate human mind, soul, and body, not in mute, motionless meditation, but in flashing, thrashing activity. Keeping the cherished idea of liberty in mind, the fathers of our Constitution engrafted in its preamble liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship. After a lot of debate in the Constituent Assembly, Article 21 of the Constitution came into existence in the present form, laying down in categorical terms that no person shall be deprived of his life and personal liberty except according to the procedure established by law. We have begun with the aforesaid prologue as the seminal question that falls for consideration in these appeals is whether the High Court, despite the value attached to the concept of liberty, could afford to vaporize the statutory mandate enshrined under Section 438 of the Code of Criminal Procedure, for short, the Code. It is not to be forgotten that liberty is not an absolute abstract concept. True, it is individual liberty is a very significant aspect of human existence, but it has to be guided and governed by law. Liberty is to be sustained and achieved when it sought to be taken away by permissible legal parameters. A court of law is required to be guided by the defined jurisdiction and not deal with matters being in the realm of sympathy or fancy. The facts that had formed the bedrock in setting the criminal law in motion need not be stated, for the nature of orders passed by High Court in both the cases have their own peculiarity. If we allow ourselves to say they have the enormous potentiality to create colossal puzzlement as regards the exercise of power under section 438 of the code. We agree with respect that the power conferred by section 438 is of an extraordinary character in the sense indicated above, namely that it is not ordinarily resorted to like the power conferred by sections 437 and 439. We also agree that the power to grant anticipatory bail should be exercised with due care and circumspection. Thereafter, the larger bench referred to the concept of liberty engrafted in Article 21 of the Constitution, situational and circumstantial differences from case to case, and observed that in regard to anticipatory bail, if the proposed accusation appears to stem not from motives of furthering the ends of justice, but from some ulterior motive, the object being to injure and humiliate the applicant by having him arrested, a direction for the release of the applicant on bail in the event of his arrest would generally be made. On the other hand, if it appears likely, considering the antecedents of the applicant, that taking advantage of the order of anticipatory bail, he will flee from justice, such an order would not be made. However, it cannot be laid down as an inexorable rule that anticipatory bail cannot be granted unless the proposed accusation appears to be actuated by malefides, and equally that anticipatory bail must be granted if there is no fear that the applicant will abscond. Thank you.